Springboks squad is out for the second test against Ireland. We're used to it by now that they do it early in the week on a Tuesday. What we're not used to is an unchanged Springbok 23. What does that tell us? Welcome back to the channel, looking ahead to the Ireland game, looking at that Springbok team selection in this video. Have your say in the comments. Let me know what you make of it in terms of why have they gone unchanged and just more generally, kind of what you make of this 23, what you saw from them last weekend and what you would like to see from them this coming weekend as well. You put all of that in the comments, like the video and subscribe to the channel as well whilst you're here. If you feel like it, I'd massively appreciate it. So as I say, it's rare that the Springboks go unchanged. I think since 2018 when Erasmus came into the role, this is only the third time they've done it. There was once at the 2019 World Cup and there was once in the last World Cup as well, I think for the semi-final against England. They typically are a team that tinker and change, as most international rugby teams are as well. But the Springboks in particular are not a team that tends to stick with the same 23, which I suppose is for a whole factor of reasons. It's good to keep things fresh and rather than it getting stale, and also a reflection of the quality and strength and depth that the Springboks have, perhaps over some other nations, for the reason that it happens so rarely. But I think what this tells me, the thing that I immediately thought with this selection was how badly the Boks want to win this series 2-0. I know we've spoken about it previously on the channel, it's been spoken about elsewhere as well in terms of the significance of this series, the fact that it would cement them as the #1 team in the world. It would silence any doubters or people that think that Ireland have been the best team and got a bit unlucky at the World Cup, all that sort of stuff. It would put that to bed. And I think that is significant for this South African team. I think the way in which we've seen Rassie Erasmus speak about this series and getting over the kind of hurdle of beating Ireland. Ireland were the one team that they hadn't really had any success against over the last few years. They got over that last weekend. I think they want to finish the job. I think they want to put in a statement and they want to win this series. And I think they want to win it comprehensively, actually. I think they want to put them away. There has been this sense of it being a bit personal, this whole series. And for me, I think that's a big part of the reason that they have gone with an unchanged 23. They want to go with strength and depth. This is not the sort of series like we saw a couple of years ago where they completely rotated their team for the second test against Wales, where they needed to get experience into players. This isn't about experience, even though there are some lesser experienced guys still on the bench. This is about getting the job done and getting the win. The other factor as well, actually, and a really significant part which cannot be overlooked, is cohesion, because as well as South Africa played in moments on Saturday, and as good a result and good as a win it was far from a perfect performance. I know there's been a lot of talk about Ireland, how they didn't really turn up. The Boks weren't at their best. So I think in the interest of cohesion and the fact that they've only had one game together, you keep the same 23, keep the same players there, you work on combinations and all that sort of thing. I suppose the flip side to that is it's already the most experienced Springbok team that has ever been named. But I think just in terms of the start of their international season, keeping those same players out there. And don't forget, the Rugby Championship is on the horizon in the not too distant future. And I think Erasmus and those coaches and those players will know they need to be better if they are to win that. And I think that is a big target for them as well. This series was important. I think winning the Rugby Championship would be as well. Off the back of a World Cup to do that, as I said, in terms of cementing their place as the #1 team in the world against this Ireland team and winning this series, I think the Rugby Championship would continue to do that. So cohesion, keeping players together, very, very important. I've already put the team up on the screen there, but it's N'Che and Mbonambi Malherbe in the front row, Etzebeth and Mostert, Khaleesi, du Toit and Smith in the back row, and de Klerk, Pollard, de Allende and Creel in the centres, going to come on to them now, and Arendse, Kolbe, le Roux, your back three. It is such an experienced team and a really, really strong team as well. And as I say, I wanted to speak about the centres because I couldn't believe this. Damien de Allende and Jesse Creel are going to be pairing up for the 30th time, I think I've got this right, the 30th time in a test match, which draws them level with Jean de Villiers and Jacques Fourie, which I find incredible because de Villiers and Fourie you think of as like an everlasting centre partnership. Like if you asked me who are the great South African centre partnership, that's probably be the first one that would come to my mind. And of this generation, I think of de Allende and Lekanyoam as the more regular 12-13 centre partnership when this team has been successful. But I think it really goes to show and underline actually the role of Jesse Creel in this Springboks team. I know he jumps around, we see him played on the wing. There's been long periods where Lekanyoam, when he is fit and has been in form, is understandably the starting 13 because he's been so good. But I think the importance of Creel to this team can sometimes be overlooked. I think that's quite a good statistic to reveal that. But I couldn't believe it was the 30th time that they'd be lining up together in the centres. But there you go. In terms of the bench, unchanged, as I've said already. Vincent Koch could have started. Frans Malherbe had it's very rare that you say this, but he had a fairly tough afternoon against Andrew Porter, who in himself is exceptional. So I didn't know if Vincent Koch might come in. I guess they maybe want him for the more dynamic option off the bench in the second half. And even though it's a really experienced team, they have still got Steenkamp, Murat and Feinberg Mgonzulu there as the lesser experienced players on the bench. I wondered if they would have got rid of Murat and added another back row option possibly in there. That was something that was interesting. I saw a few people actually in the comment section on last week's video when we were talking about the Springbok team news about maybe they would have gone with that rather than two kind of second rows in Snyman and Murat. But anyway, they haven't. They have kept it the same. And those are my general thoughts on it. What do you make of it? How important is it as Springbok fans? I suppose this is a good question for you to win this series 2-0, to wrap it up on the weekend. I think a drawn series for Ireland, by the way, at this stage, would be probably up there with their series win in New Zealand a few years ago when they won the series 2-1 because of the injury problems that they're faced with. I mean, Craig Casey is now out, so I'd imagine Conor Murray's going to come in. Dan Sheehan is a huge loss to them. He is one of their most dynamic, explosive players. And given the way in which they struggled really to punch too many holes last weekend, I think that's a massive loss for Ireland. But the flip side is, this is an Ireland team who, when their backs have been up against the wall, in the Andy Farrell era really, they have often been able to produce a bit of magic and surpass expectations. So maybe they will make life more difficult for the Springboks than many people would currently anticipate. But I think when you look at it on paper, Rassie has gone unchanged. It's the most experienced Springbok team we've ever seen. It's packed full of World Cup winners. And Ireland are going to be on their third choice scrum half. They've just lost their first choice hooker, who is one of the best hookers in the world. It feels like Ireland are in a tougher place at the moment. And I know the Springboks have injury problems themselves. I think it's just a reflection of their strength in depth that they still have such a strong 23. So I'm still looking forward to Saturday. I'm seeing if what Ireland are able to produce and also what their team's going to look like. I presume they're going to name that on Thursday. But the Boks have gone early and the Boks have gone unchanged. Not something you see too often. Comment down below, like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.